Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Up bright and early once again, not on Monday though, on Sunday. Although I am going to start taking off on Mondays instead of Sundays on stream, so maybe I can technically record these Monday morning and get them out, and rather do it the day before. I like to stay a little bit ahead of things. For content plans for the week, probably not too many things, maybe like 2 or 3. We do have a State of the Realm planned for sure. And with TGS right around the corner, there's definitely going to be some more videos in the coming weeks, especially with Quantum, the Monster Hunter stuff. I will be playing the Monster Hunter collab on the Monster Hunter side, so we'll be facing Omega. Probably going to have to do a late stream that day because I'm betting Whoops wants to do it as soon as it comes out, and they usually do it on like Wednesday nights, so that's going to be a time. But for other things, I actually really want to get to making a lot more general Square Enix content. For a while, I was doing it, but as the years went on, I ended up kind of being less and less interested in making a video about each individual thing about a new game that's coming out or my thoughts on Square Enix games coming out. But I mean, I don't think it's any secret that I generally enjoy a lot of games that are not Final Fantasy XIV. A lot of them happen to be Square Enix games. I loved Romancing Saga 2, really looking forward to Elliot, Octopath Zero. I have a lot to say about Octopath Zero because it's Champions of the Continent coded. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, I played Dragon Quest 3, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't make sense that I don't at least have something to say about some of these games, or I just don't post anything about some of these games, especially when there's sometimes a drier season with 14. Some general Final Fantasy content as well. I still obviously have series that have just been dormant because I haven't had time to get around to them, but quick thoughts videos are something that can easily supplement me while I'm in between working on longer videos, and I think that's kind of the thing that I'm missing right now when it comes to my channel, is an ability to work on both, have something that I can get out within an hour or two, and then have stuff that I'm okay taking a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make sure it's edited, to make sure it's proper and it's what I actually want to put out. So there's going to be a mix of those things, but that's what I want to do. We'll see. I've got to actually draft out a plan for that. Not to mention, I've actually got a couple of major 14 videos in the works. I still have the 10-2 Platinum video that needs working. I did start working on it, but, honestly, it's... I'm not sure when I will get around to that. But then I also have the 12 Platinum video, 13, the 13 series as a whole, 14. I've got a lot of videos. It's just, man, coming and finding the time. Finding a time now that I live a balanced life is really the core problem, is that, I really much rather have my balanced life that I have now. I get to, spend time that isn't just working, 12 hours a day, 12 to 16 hours a day. Well, I'm sure I should probably be doing that on occasion if I have some really busy times. It's so far from my norm, which it used to be, that I can't really complain. As much as I have video ideas that I really want to work on, and I can get to working on them occasionally, I live a way better life now. So a life that I'm way happier with, Mr. Happier with. And so if it means some of those ideas take a little bit longer or don't happen as quickly as I would like them to, I'm okay with it. So hopefully you guys are too, but I'd like to still do a few more of the simpler things on the channel in between some of those things that just take a really long time to edit and get out. But anyway, that's what I want to say for the start of this video. Let's get into the Q&A. Quick shout out to SteelSeries, sponsor. If you're ever looking for new headsets, mice, keyboards, you can ask questions in the Q&A, but I always have the link in the description. If you have an ad blocker, sometimes the link doesn't work because it is an affiliate link, so it has a tracking code in it, and ad blockers do sometimes block tracking codes. I get people asking me about it occasionally. If that's happening, then normally you just got to open another browser or something that just whitelisted. I don't know, there's lots of ways to get around it, but if you want to support the stream, there's that link. There's a 12% discount code. If they have a better discount code, use their discount code instead. My link is what supports me, not my discount code. My discount code is just for you in case you want that 12% discount. And also, of course, shout out to the patrons over on Patreon. Nobody has to support. I don't have any content that's locked behind a members paywall or a Patreon paywall. But whenever we have members, whenever we have patrons, I thank them. So thank you to all of you for your support. Anyway, with that, let's get on to the Q&A. All right, first question. Hashtag Mr. Happy, space, Mondays. Quick No, hello. Oh, no, never mind. I can see. I see it. I see it at the bottom. So you put the hellos at the beginning because just listen. I'd never read it backwards. I get that. Like hearing about your culinary adventures and with DT having so much food mentioned in it. What have you been eating lately? Anything new or adventurous? I've eaten new and adventurous for years. It's rare that I'll eat something new or adventurous at this point because I've kind of had everything. There's some bucket list items that I haven't had over the years. Like if I go to Scotland, I really want to try haggis for example. I've never had a century egg. I've had like 1,000-year egg, and I've had balut, but I've never had a century egg, which is one of those like disgusting things that you see. I hear they're absolutely gross, but haggis I'm actually really interested in. But no, I mean, you got to remember, I've always been adventurous with food. I mean, when I was like 6 years old, I was trying to eat sushi, and my parents their heart would drop to their stomach at the thought of me eating raw fish. You know, it's very different from the times I live now. But I eat fish, I eat beef, I eat vegetarian and vegan foods if I'm interested in them, if they sound good enough. So it's rare that I try anything new or adventurous. The only thing that really happens that's ever new is whether I cook it or not. And I've been cooking very simple as of late. So I definitely wouldn't say my cooking has been adventurous. But anything to recommend, there's nothing in particular. It's really just anytime you think, I don't know if I'll like that. I don't know is not an admission that you won't. It's really just an excuse to not try something new. So if you're looking to expand culinary desires, or you think it's like something you actively want to work on, then I highly recommend just trying it. Like, yeah, you might be out a few bucks, but you really don't know. You could find the next thing that you love food-wise and becomes your obsession for however long. Or you could find something you hate, and then you know if anyone ever asks you again that you've had it, and that you've tried it, and that, you know, you have an opinion on it. And that's, you know, life is one giant batch of experiences to have opinions on. So that's my only recommendation, is to just go for it if there's something you want to try and you're not sure about it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hiya, hello, and greetings. Hi. Longtime viewer, first time asker here with a question I asked too late last week. Ooh, sorry about that. Yeah, I also recorded last week's kind of early, if I recall. Forgive me if this has been asked before, addressed, but is there a good reason why they don't switch to seasonal rolling cap for cap tombstones? In week 1 you get 450, week 2 you get listed as 400 out of 900 cap. Because it's not as urgent to get you to log in. I mean, I'll be honest, the only reason why weekly caps, weekly restrictions exist in any game is because they want you to have to play the game for a longer period of time over the course of a fiscal year. That's true of any game. Like, it doesn't matter what game it is, there's literally no reason. The rolling cap is one of those user-friendly things that actually, how do I describe this? The rolling cap is simultaneously a great thing for people who will only play a certain number of days out of the week or out of a month or whatever. And then simultaneously it's awful because it's a giant mountain to climb if you fall behind it. Because, like, let's say if you don't have the time to play daily, or even, like, you know, more than once every 3 or 4 days, then a rolling cap for a lot of games, because most games do it daily, it just looks like a massive, like, if you're not someone who has a ton of hours on the days you can play, you effectively are just seeing the giant wall you didn't get to climb. It's kind of the same with tomes in this case, where if you were to, the rolling cap would mean, let's say you missed an entire week of playing Final Fantasy 14, you're 0 out of 450. The next week you're 0 to 900. What are the odds that that week goes any better for you in terms of actually progressing? So it's one of those, it's one of those like in betweens. Now, obviously, personally, I like the tome gear to be a little cheaper, but this would be a good step for catch up and alt jobs. So here's the thing: a seasonal rolling cap, you list you as 400 out of 9. Don't get any more. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't help because it's the same as if you were playing every week and capping every week. You know, it's just that you clearly don't have the time to play enough to cap. Now, keep in mind that rolling caps are usually from when you actually play. And they obviously, this would cap at 2,000 in a sense. If you don't know, it doesn't really create a bigger, what's the word? What I'm assuming, what I'm reading, what I'm saying is just doesn't create an actual larger Tombstone economy. It just means that if you missed like a cap for a week, you're just not punished the following week, but you still have to then catch up in that following week. Like if you get to the point where you're 400 out of 1350, I don't know. I feel like if you don't have the time to do that already, it's just becoming a bigger and bigger mountain that you're visually seeing that you can't climb. And I'd rather that we look at more ways to improve not even Tombstone economy, but gear economy, gear availability, than look at making a Tombstone rolling cap, for example. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi, you all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Just watch your impressions on Fana and Cosmic Exploration. During the portion, we discuss ways to shake up how we engage with crafting and gathering. Use Diadem 1.0 as a reference. I mentioned other devs couldn't find the right balance with crafting and gathering. Well, it was technically Diadem 2.0 because Diadem 1.0 was combat only. Diadem 2.0 is you understand. Thinking further back, Hamlet defense. Oh my god, I hated the Hamlets, dude. They were so bad. Oh god. And again, the balance wasn't right. It was literally, so when you only have 8 people, 5 of them are fucking crafters throwing potions at the enemies. One is a tank just running mobs in a circle, and the other 2 people are like a healer and maybe a DPS. Like, it was, oh, I hated Hamlet. It was, the way it was done was just really, really bad. But I think if you're gonna mix crafters and gatherers, you really, really need to have a lot of them present. Like, it's fine if you're doing like a castle defense and the gatherers are going to get materials for the crafters to build up the wall, while the combat jobs deal with the attacking enemies to try to buy time and push them back. Like, those are technically, and even that, the balance is really easy to get wrong. If the combat jobs don't have any issues dealing with the enemies and the crafters don't need to build the walls, then, you know, there's that problem as well. But it was, oh god, I hated Hamlets. Again, I wouldn't want anything as tight-knit as a Hamlet. The system was just so bad. I just feel like it needs to be large scale. If you're going to mix crafting and gathering and combat, you can't do it on a small scale. You have to do it on a large scale. And Hamlets, unless you're going to make them really large scale, and then there's the difficulty of how do you actively engage with it. You know, like, people are going to feel like they need, you know, discords to do it. Especially if there's any real difficulty. So, like, it'd have to be basically a low difficulty content. Like, it'd have to be something where the crafters and gatherers feel like they're making a difference and the combat jobs feel like they're making a difference, but that you're not hinging on like some min-maxed experience. Like, it's not like a raid level difficulty, like mix and match of these things. Like, maybe you do a normal and a savage or a quantum style thing, but I think they should just, if they're going to consider it, they need to do it differently, because it's never worked. And I can't think of very many games where it's actually done well, even when it's done. So, it's rough. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Haps. Hi. Hope you've been enjoying those tome grinds. So 3 quick questions this week. Favorite minion, favorite mount, favorite title. I made a video on favorite mount, going over the T-Rex being one of my favorites. I don't really use it very often, but it's one that has emotional weight for me. Favorite title is World Class Troller. I haven't swapped off of it. And honestly, it's been one of the reasons why I don't work on certain things like Necromancer very often. Like, I've soloed to 200, but not from floor 1, because honestly, soloing to 200 was the reward itself, because I'm never going to use the Necromancer title. And favorite minion, I don't really have one. Maybe my Conditional Virtue. You know, I hate that little guy, but you know, he's cool. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. For difficulties above normal, extreme, savage, and so on, what is your opinion on the most fair fight in 14? By fair, I mean factors like how intuitive it is, how telegraphed it is, and how punishing things are while maintaining the expected challenge. It's an average player that actually plays difficulties above normal, giving it their all when in blind. They would still feel a challenge, but not like they needed a guide for obtuse mechanics. That's honestly most encounters. Like, obtuse mechanics haven't really been a thing since the olden days. The closest you get is stuff like the puzzle mechanic in P8S, which is incredibly unintuitive. So that's probably the most unintuitive encounter in the whole game, maybe, is P8S. Just solving the puzzle in the second half, there's just so much uneducated trial and error that effectively it's a logic puzzle. So you really have to just try every single result and then find what works, and that's really the only way to do it. But most encounters in this game are naturally fair. Like, I do them all mostly blind. I mean, tons of people do them all mostly blind on content, or entirely blind on content, and it goes fine, you know? So I'd be remiss to say it's not just most of them. What would you say is the most unfair fight? Yeah, okay, so I think P8S is the most unfair. Omega wasn't actually all that bad to figure out on content. It was executing it that was actually difficult. The only obtuseness was how you were going to handle the Dynamis hops. And even then, that kind of solves itself once you make it far enough into the encounter. So I don't think top was unintuitive in any way or unfair. It was just incredibly demanding. But I think that P8S is an example of genuinely unintuitive and kind of just an unfun puzzle to really have to solve, because it's just so much completely random. Like, just, oh, well, let's just mix these and see what happens. Let's mix these and see what happens. How the heck do we survive this death mechanic? Like, what if we mix these? It's like, it was literally just like uneducated try. Like, there was literally no reasonable basis for half the things that happen in that fight. That being said, excluding top, I don't know if it's unfair or simply more difficult than, yeah, I'd say it's really just more difficult than most of the others. I think P8S's phase 2 is actually up there in terms of genuinely unfair. There are some things in the older raids too that I would say would generally track as unfair. Midas has a couple of things, but no, I think P8S is probably the most unintuitive and unfair for the second phase. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, hi. Thinking about Guild Wars 2 and what makes events and metas worth doing, and the conclusion I've personally come to a lot is that Guild Wars 2 having a more functional economy and item system than 14. Knowing that certain metas drop certain crafting components that sell for a lot get used in legendaries helps direct grinds. Dispersing different items to different metas gives you a reason to do one or the other. Yes, even if most of it is unidentified gear that gets mulched into Ectos. I mean, the Ectos is realistically like 90% of the prospective value of it. I don't know what can even be done to fix 14's economy. Would axing submarines even make a difference? I don't think, again, I don't agree. I just don't agree. Guild Wars 2's metas, how do I do this? Guild Wars 2 doesn't care if you want to gear up. Honestly, it really doesn't. Literally, you get to max level, you're at max gear. That's it. There's literally nothing else to it. Like, what you need are the, what are they called? Not essences. You need the I'll just call them. I'm wrong. This isn't what they're called, essences. But you need the essence. Like, you need the thing from like a really high tier player is gonna want the enchantment or essence from Octavine, for example. It's like 13,000 gold or something like that. It's like an insane value. But it's literally just like, they really don't care that you want to gear up. They effectively just have to create grinds that exist for the sake of grinds existing. If that makes sense. The legendaries are really that. Because like ascended gear, like I have a couple of ascended pieces on my Reaper. It's like I don't really even remember going about getting them. It wasn't like a memorable experience. It just kind of eventually happened. And then legendaries are effectively ascendeds that you can change. Like they're flexible ascendeds. And even then for ascendeds, you're really just looking at that for like fractals more than anything like that, because you're going to need the agony resist. And I hate agony resist. I think it's a terrible mechanic. I think it's unfun and the fact that that's the only gearing that they effectively have as agony resistance is really, really weird to me. Because everything else is just like you can be better, you could do better, you can technically get better gear again by actually getting the stuff that you put in your weapons and armor. But it's just like, I don't know, dude. It's such a bland experience. Because, like, I've spent hours and hours and hours rolling through metas. And effectively, I just walk away with 1 billion Ectos. And it's like, yeah, I need Ectos for legendaries. But, like, I don't care. Like, I already have, like, an ascended weapon on my... Like, does it look cool? Yeah. But is it functionally going to assist me in any way? No, and that's what I'm going to spend most of my time doing. And most metas, like, they're kind of cool once or twice, but, like, I was going through some of the later expansion metas, and it's like, okay, yeah, do I really want to do this meta every day? Like, do I really want to do the Wizard Tower meta, like, over and over again? Like, this is neat. Now I've done it. I'm just going to roll through it every time, and every time I go to do almost every meta, people just roll through it because everyone's been doing them so much that they all just know exactly where to stand and exactly what to do. And they just mow down the enemies. Like things like, Jormag just fall over the old ones. Tocatl can be bad on like a low pop. But if you're a low pop, almost all of them are bad because everyone's so used to doing them, just mowing them over, that on the low pops, they just go poorly. So there's like perspective value on all of them. But you genuinely just have to kind of enjoy doing them because the actual functional reason that they serve in the game is just not that important, because you can kind of just do everything without doing that. Like, you can just go world versus world all the time if that's what you enjoy doing. Similar, you'll make progress, you'll work towards legendaries, but you really probably just want to do world versus world for the sake of doing world versus world if you want to. And you probably just want to do arenas if you just enjoy doing arenas. Because the amount of progress you'll actually make character-wise is negligible. Most of the progress you make character-wise is expansion to expansion, giving you masteries for, different exploration tools, sky scale, whatever else quality of life that you're trying to function. And after you're done with all that, it's rough. Like, it's really hard to stay motivated, in my opinion, to play Guild Wars 2. And every time I see active Guild Wars 2 players, they effectively just... active is not even the right word. They go through phases where effectively every few months they'll like log in for a little bit and like maybe work on a legendary or, you know, do something. They're like, oh, this is fun. And then they kind of just step away again because they're like, well, I don't really have much of a reason to do this unless they're constantly fractal climbing. Like, it's weird because Guild Wars 2 on the surface has a lot of things that should make it more attractive than it is, but they struggle a lot with like content motivation and general content push. Like, yes, they got a new expansion fairly frequently, and it's usually really cool, and the stories have gotten better and better, and they're really doing some neat things. But the problem is neat isn't like good enough to play, and you don't have to. It's not a subscription MMO, and that's kind of the point with Guild Wars 2. But also, there's another very interesting thing with Guild Wars 2. I saw some, I don't remember where, this might even be in my comment section that I looked throughout the week. Guild Wars 2 has gold equals gems. That's a big factor. You have to remember that the gems in the cash shop, gold equals gems. And any of these activities you can work on as gold. So I can tell you right now for Final Fantasy XIV, I do not want to get to the point where Gil equals Krista. And that's kind of what it's looking like. It would have to be the comparison. So I don't think there is a reasonable solution. I think the games are just built different. And I don't think 14 needs to use Guild Wars 2 as a model for open world content. I think they need to figure out if they're going to do stuff, what actually makes sense within Final Fantasy XIV and how much they want that experience to be part of an any day, everyday experience for the game. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Hapoy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays. Good morning, afternoon, evening, Haps. Hopefully you and the household are doing well. Yeah, if the cats could stop. Oh, dude, the cats are going wild, man. My friend and I recently got into a little bit of debate over the reasoning behind Xenoshinrius being skipped over for getting the ultimate treatment. While we're still overall disagree, both came to an understanding that made me think of two things. I'll start in advance if it's too long. One, do you think that the inevitable Endsinger Ultimate... Dude, I think the final phase of Endsinger Ultimate is like, what if Xenos like absorbed Endsinger and his like desire to become stronger? I do actually think we're going to have a Neo Shinryu final boss for an Ultimate down the line. So there is part of that. But also, I'll just tell you this. Stormblood was never going to be a good Ultimate for the MSQ. The MSQ split in two. It's really disjointed. The whole Xenos thing that's going on, he's kind of just... the overarching villain, but we're not really, it's not like with Emmett where we're like constantly like butting heads. They just, every time we run into them, it's like a dangerous encounter. And he's kind of just like the looming threat over everything who then becomes obsessed with us. So it's like, if you're going to do Shinryu, you basically kind of have to do it like Omega, where you just kind of go into the Shinryu fight to start, and then some like wild what if shit starts happening immediately after. I just don't think it's a good idea. I just don't think Stormblood's MSQ is strong enough on its own to make a compelling Ultimate. So that's really the big reason. But I do think there's like a Neo Shinryu thing that's going to happen with the Endsinger Ultimate, or let me rephrase, the End of Days Ultimate, whatever they decide to call it. Hades Ultimate likely being, well, Hades, and it's probably not just Hades. It's probably Hades Warrior. It's probably the Unsundered, if I had to guess, which I wouldn't even be surprised to see La Brea pop up in that one. I think the chances are they kick it up a notch, include Elidibus. Yeah, I think that's what I think. I don't, you can't do, in my opinion, you can't do Sea to Sacrifice Ultimate and Hades Ultimate separately. They have to be 2 in 1. Like you like 3 in 1 if you really want to include, you know, La Brea in some capacity. So I think it's just going to be some like unsundered stuff going on. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Howdy. Hi. In a recent video in regards to 8.0 job changes. Sorry, I know it's a bit tiresome. Listen, I answer questions every week. You think this doesn't happen? I was thinking but I was thinking that the one thing they should fix is the abilities and spells, in particular for the early game. For instance, is Gunbreaker Main getting synced below 76. Yeah, this is a constant thing that people talk about. This is not like a new topic in any way. It's how the early game actually functions for a lot of jobs and how unsatisfying it is. Granted, as a Gunbreaker, you don't unlock it until 60. But you can still play it under 60 and it does not feel great. So yeah, no, this is going to constant thing. We've seen some jobs actually make strides in this. Monk and Summoner both play fairly similarly. Black Mage has gotten a decent number of early game changes that really help its playability down there as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them continue to make those same efforts. I do think that a lot of jobs, yeah, you don't have Dance Partner in the early levels. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that can that can happen. And I think we will see that continue, but I don't think it'll be en masse. I think it'll be little by little. I think they really want to focus on core identity in the final parts of the game, but they do need to stop making the concession of making the early game not feel good in order to do that. So hopefully they kind of find a balance somewhere in between where it's a better experience early, but that they can still focus on the experience later. I mean, like I said, Monk and Summoner are great examples of how to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. How's it going, dude? It's going good. Hey, I was just bumming around Idleshire and noticed the Proto Ultima exchange. I remember that being a neat little thing to get an additional piece of gear every week. Yeah, I loved it. I'd be totally down for them to do the Proto Ultima thing again. I think they could still do it better. But I enjoyed the Proto Ultima exchange. I mean, the idea of like there being a weekly inside of your 24-man series, especially with Final Fantasy 11. I mean, Final Fantasy 11 is literally the perfect Alliance Raid series to do something like that, where it's like, oh, you know, this NM appeared that is notorious, or it's like it's out of place somewhere. I don't know. There's lots of things that would make sense in that capacity. So it's the right place to do it. And so I think they didn't do it again because it was like I don't know. Maybe they just determined that it was a lot of work for effectively a trash boss. Maybe I'd like, that's about the only thing I could think of, but I liked it, so I'd be down. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey there, Haps. Hi, hope all is well. It is. My question is, with the interviews you've had recently, say jobs are supposedly getting big change to 8.0 going forward. Worry some of these changes may not turn out good and be perceived as bad. I mean, change can always be good or bad. Like, that's why people are afraid of change. They're unfamiliar with it, and it could take something they already know that they like and make it into something they don't like. But change, nothing happens without change. Then everything's the same, and if you're not enjoying what's in front of you now, then there's no hope at all. Or if you're just kind of done or bored of it, change needs to happen. Like, it doesn't matter if it is on, you know, a scale, on a massive scale or on a small scale. Change needs to happen. Every expansion, people worry about whether changes are good or bad. It's no different. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. Hope you're well today. I am. I have a question regarding Ultimate. Sure. Finally got over my fear of high-end content at Dawn Trail and started progressing through Fru in 7.3. How would you compare Fru to other Ultimates in terms of difficulty? I've heard the horror stories of Top, but I never really understood how much harder it was in comparison to everything else around it. Fru is, I think if you're going to jump into a modern Ultimate, that is the one. Uwu and Ukab, while they are friendly to beginners, are not, they haven't aged well. At least not as well as other ones have. T is kind of in it's just barely above that. So I actually think T is the only other one other than Fru I'd recommend if you're brand new to Ultimates. It's been outscaled in a lot of ways, but not in every single way. And some of the core aspects that make up an Ultimate, especially the first couple of phases, really set the pace for like what to expect from an Ultimate. But Fru is actually a really, really solid one. It's not too different from T difficulty-wise in terms of like the on-content ability to complete it. And it's, you know, level 100, you have all your abilities. It accurately represents current design, which makes it really valuable of an experience. So Fru is like one of the two I would recommend as a brand new experience if you want to be eased into it. Uwu and Ukab are really more like curiosity projects to me nowadays. Like if you do want to get into Ultimate in one of them, I think we had someone in last week's episode say they had just beaten it. That's great. I mean, anything that gets you in the door is fantastic. But if I was thinking of something that would better prepare someone for the overall Ultimate experience, if they plan to do more of them, then T and Fru are more valuable in that regard. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing all right. Doing all right. This question came to me as I was running roulette today, and I'd be interested to hear you and others' opinions. What do you believe is the most overpowered skill in the game on any job? Bloodwetting. Bloodwetting's stupid. There's like, I think it's stupid. Bloodwetting is just, it's just stupid. I genuinely don't know how they've continued to look at that and been like, yeah, that's the amount of healing I want Warrior to have. Like, it's, yeah. Let me put it this way. Bloodwetting, you mentioned light speed, 15 seconds of instant cast for every 60 seconds. Now, bloodwetting means you don't even invite the Astro. If you're doing a dungeon, bloodwetting means you just don't even invite the Astro, so they can't even use light speed. So bloodwetting. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Salutations and hope you're having a great day. A few extra hellos in case someone misses it. Hello. Hi. Hey. How are you? I've been diligently working on my Relic weapon during the duty roulette and consistently getting Crystal Tower raids. I found myself wondering what these were like when they first came out. Were they difficult? Any DPS or heal checks? Any of the bosses or areas cause folks grief? Just curious as my mind wanders while I work on completing this step of the Relic. I've actually been considering making a video, actually pulling up my old guides and all of my old footage and showcasing what these fights were like. So World of Darkness, you actually get almost the entire picture. There's been some modernizations to it, but World of Darkness, you still kind of get the same pain points. You know, people not going into the belly, people not picking up the plant enemies on Cerberus. I guess the clouds go a lot easier now on Cloud of Darkness, but I guess the second boss, people maybe not standing on the poison or the wind being in the party. You don't really have the issue with the lightning AoE or the fire passes anymore because the fight's dead too quickly. But they were... Circus Tower especially was a lot harder. Like, that one's really the one that's been hurt the most. Like, Labyrinth of the Ancients is... Bone Dragon, honestly, goes the same today as it did back then. It's just way faster. The second boss, same deal. Behemoth, you actually used to care about the towers. But people still, you know, maybe sometimes die to, you know, the meteors being too close to the boss and trying to hide behind them when that doesn't work. Or the Iron Giant just, you know, wrecking everyone because the tank is just holding it on the rest of the party or something like that. And sometimes you have, like, the bomb explosion. But, like, the bomb trash before that used to actually explode. I would say the final boss, I'd say Acheron is... Phlegathon now is actually... kind of the same. So it depends, but yeah, no, they were a lot tougher in a lot of ways, especially the second boss of Circus Tower, especially Circus Tower as a whole. All those bosses have mechanics nobody sees anymore. So if we did, it would be a much more interesting time. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. Seems most of the ongoing new issues with the game stem from a low development staff compared to what is required of a game that size. I know they said the language barrier is the largest wall to overcome, instead of spinning their tires in the mud and lamenting this issue. Why don't they actively work to grow their non-Japanese speaking developer base and incorporate them into the workflow process? So that, say, 2 expansions from now, they can assign certain QA or medium lift. Well, QA, I can tell you right now, there is English-speaking QA, but that doesn't go very far. Just because they're still not the ones actively developing. Or medium lift development tasks to the team to lean more on traditional developers for the larger lift items. I mean, they have been hiring. They have new devs, but, you know, they just clearly don't have enough. Here's the thing. How do I put this? This is a good call. But do you really want to wait 5 years for change? That's kind of what it boils down to. Even if they were to start working on this, like let's say they were already working on it for a year at this point, you'd probably still be 4 years out from seeing any noticeable changes. Devs need to be making content we want now. And while investment in the future is a good idea, in this case, I'm not going to call it a short-term solution. Shorter-term actions are, I think, more important now that can then be carried into later points than setting up something long-term. It's not a reason not to do the long-term thing. The long-term thing is fine. But the amount of things that need to be overcome to do that are potentially very rough. So it's one of those where I can't say they shouldn't do that, but I don't think it's the priority, and I don't think it's going to actually... If 4 years from now that comes into play, but the game has been like Dawn Trail the entire time, what? Too little, too late, you know? So we'll see what happens. Both simultaneously would be a good thing. I'm just like not super optimistic that A, this would work, and B, that we would see it any sort of tangible result in a time period that reflects the feedback that we're giving them now. I see there's no hello here. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. What aspects of old school RuneScape or horizontal progression sandbox MMOs do you think could benefit a theme park MMO 14? So let me put that out this way. I don't think horizontal sandbox MMOs I don't think they should borrow anything from that. A lot of them are largely built on, how do I put this? I guess when I think about Final Fantasy 11, I call them calendar games because you end up effectively just taking a really long time to get the things you want for minimal increase in power. You know, looking back on Final Fantasy 11 and all my time with it, did I really care about the content? No. It was kind of just a chat room for me. Like, I would go to H&M's and like Dynamis and stuff, but it was to fuck around. You know what I mean? Like, it literally wasn't even to play the game in like any capacity, because the game itself didn't really require a whole lot of playing. Like, maybe I needed to time a stun for something, but then the infrastructure for that game was so old it didn't even work. Like, nowadays that wouldn't be a stressful thing nowadays, because the game's generally a game that released now will be more responsive, to the point where I don't have to worry about a stun not going off because the servers are in Japan and I'm playing on a PS2 or whatever the hell goes on. But for OSRS in particular, OSRS, I think the most important takeaway from OSRS specifically that even is applicable in Final Fantasy XIV, there's two. One is intertwined nature of skills and activity. I think we actually have one example of this being done well in Final Fantasy XIV, in that of ocean fishing. Ocean fishing is taking fishing. You already know it. It's the same thing, but you're giving it an an isolated activity that you can benefit from in some capacity. You know, whether it's you want to do that to level, or you want to do that for certain rewards that are exclusive to that mode, whether that be titles or aquarium fish or whatever. They could do better rewards for it, in my opinion. But the bottom line is that it is effectively the skilling minigames. I think the skilling minigames is really what I'm looking at. I'm looking at I don't want to say the fishing trawler, but I guess, yeah, the fishing trawler in this case is a good equivalent to make. Your winter tots, your temporasas, your, what's another one? I don't know, I think I want to say barbarian assault either, because, but the idea behind it, right? Like there's always, or, that's a better example, forestry for logging, for wood cutting. Forestry, it's still wood cutting, but it is far better than just doing wood cutting itself. It's just wood cutting, but better. So I'd like to see more skill integration into activities being introduced that allow you to do something similar, but a little bit more. Honestly, Cosmic is not a bad idea. It just doesn't change the experience fundamentally enough. And I think that's probably where it could use some improvement. Okay, like Guardians of the Rift compared to normal rune crafting. You're still doing rune crafting, but the activity behind it is a little bit more involved, which is why I made that example last week. It's just those kind of ideas. I think also something that Final Fantasy XIV is terribly scared of, and shouldn't be, is item scarcity. Listen, I know it's very, I guess I'll call it snowflake mentality, to want to feel special in an MMO. But when you get something that is super incredibly rare, and not a lot of people have it, and you have it, and you've earned it, or you've even luck-sacked into it, you've spooned it, as they would say in OSRS, there is like such a genuine sense of satisfaction to have overcome that. And I actively seek that experience in Final Fantasy XIV. I have 500 million gil. I could have bought the Yan day one, even at the ridiculous prices, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. But instead I was like, oh, I'm going to make a map party, and I'm going to hunt this particular mount until I get it. And I did that. A bunch of other people got it, I got it, and I still occasionally do parties for it because people still need it. I'm effectively recreating the experience by taking out the fact that I can't just buy the pet, or the mount in this case, off the market board. I think we've seen things like that with the bird minion from Dead Ends. I think there's some value in having items that you have to do content for that are rare, that you can't guarantee. I mean, even the Fenrir pup in PvP is a good example. It's not a great example, but it's a good example, of something that, what if while I was doing, ocean fishing, every time I come back with the points, I have rewards that I can get, and among them is an incredibly rare reward. I think that some item scarcity is well placed in MMOs. I don't think everyone deserves to instantly earn everything. And if you're upset at that, sorry. Some of us want to play the game, and we want to have a reason to play the game, and we like having motivations in the game to play the game. You don't deserve everything just because you pay your subscription. Play the game and actually earn things in the game, for God's sake. You know what I mean? So those are really the two things. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope all is well. It is. I hope this isn't a bad question. I'll find out in a second. I tried top and I really had trouble beating the DPS check of phase 3 and 4. Do you think there would be enough power creep in 8.0 to help me out? Well, first of all, you aren't 8 people. So you aren't failing to beat the DPS check. All 8 people are failing to beat the DPS check. And we are at the point where you will not have power creep via item level for top, I'm pretty sure. Maybe the finished relic at the end of 7.5, but we're pretty much capped out on what you can expect from the power creep on top, I'm pretty sure. It's only skill creep, which is there, but I mean, I'll be honest, at this point, we power creeped enough in top, in that if you're failing the DPS check, it's because you fundamentally are making mistakes. So you need to, the 8 people need to fundamentally work on correcting their gameplay mistakes, not wait for the game to make it easier. Because otherwise, this is just going to happen again, and then you'll just be waiting, and then you'll never be doing it, like, at any point of, I'm not going to say relevancy, because relevancy is pointless, but of, it'll be years before you get anything done in that particular case. So I'm going to say no. It probably won't help you. It's just a matter of improving gameplay, and it's an 8-player improvement of gameplay, not one person. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, you happy? Hi, hope everything is good. It is. And y'all doing well? I just have a quick RuneScape question. Sure. You're going to try the RS3 League this month? No, probably not. I have too many other things going on. I also have no experience in RuneScape 3. Whereas if they do like an OSRS League, like I've heard the Bingo League is the thing people are expecting next, I think it's called. That I'm more likely to try. RS3, obviously a lot of people gave me negative impressions of what to expect from RS3, but I haven't actually played it for myself. Looking at it, I'm not as interested in it immediately, like just like of my own volition, like just seeing it and like kind of hearing about a few of the things that it does differently. But I'd rather just like, I already am playing old school RuneScape. I'm doing Final Fantasy 14 stuff. I don't think I need an RS3 League. Like, I'd rather just do like a Path of Exile 2 League or something like that instead of doing an RS3 League personally. So, no, I don't think I have any interest in doing that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Good day, good day. Hi. I am writing after experiencing a map party with 7 out of 8, 7 out of 24 portal rate. Been there before. Question says, are the portal rates publicly known, and did you experience something similar in the past? Big fan. Best of luck in your future map parties. Thank you. I think the last time we were told the percentages, and you're not going to believe me, they were 70%. They were 50-50 at one point, and then I'm trying to remember the source. The problem is I don't have a source for this. A lot of people, remember the 70% thing being stated, but I really don't remember where. I feel like it was in a live letter, so it's the only thing is like it's like an unofficial translation, which is obviously not even a reliable source. Maybe there's an official translation, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's supposed to be 70%, but I've had similar luck to you. So I've also had like 24 out of 24. So take what you will. There's just, it's 50-50. Either get it or you don't. Ricky Bobby. Is that it? That's not that movie. You either win or you don't. No, that's it. Yeah, no, we're going with that. Hashtag Mr. Happy of the Monday variety. Hello, Haps. Hi. Hope you're doing all right. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. So I've been going through the Occult Crescent and the recent Relic steps. The one question that kept popping in my head is, why is the dev team trying to twist field ops and Relic grinds to appeal to people who hated this content style from the start and never wanted to do them? It feels like in recent patches the content is made for Twitter, not for the vision of what they want to accomplish. Looking for feedback is good, but looking for too much feedback leads to getting vapid, meaningless feedback from people who genuinely don't know what they want. It's funny because when people ask me like what I think about a job like Summoner, for example, I can say I have an opinion, but it's an uneducated one, so it shouldn't really hold any value. Most people don't hold their own opinions that way. They think, no, it's my opinion and it's valuable. Shut up. Yeah, it's kind of a weird place where you want to create content that is attractive to a lot of players, and this feedback is actually important. You don't just want to be like, well, only a few people like this thing, and we should make sure we only ever make it for those few people. That's, that's kind of stubborn and arrogant of a developer. That's a lot of arrogance to do that as a developer. It's very stubborn to do that as a developer. Instead of looking at how you can try to make the experience better, but by keeping its core principles together. I will say this, though. The Relic is, no matter what, I feel like there's literally no way you're going to please any player who is being asked to put a modicum of effort into the game. Like, there are, I think, I don't want to say valid complaints, but there are more reasonable complaints about stuff like the Ether Wells. Like, why does the Alliance Raid 1 scale so much worse than the other ones? Like, why doesn't it, maybe why isn't the bonus maybe dynamic? So, like, if I get something that's worth a lot of points, I get a really small bonus. If I get something that's not worth a lot of points, I get a big bonus. Because it's weird that it basically finishes at half the rate if you get a bunch of Crystal Tower raids, and it's the only real one that has that level of variance. to such a severe capacity. Completely reasonable. Saying this is dumb, I don't want to do it, is just, okay, well, what do you want to do? You know, like, we're giving you an activity. You can log in daily. There's a few different activities that work towards it. Technically, you're getting tomes for the step that's going to follow up, or tomes for the step that came before. So, you know, we're technically giving you some options there. The Ether Well step, you can level while you're doing the Ether Well step. You won't see the same instance over and over again, unless, of course, it's Crystal Tower, because, you know, Crystal Tower, how it is. There's a lot of good there. But then when you get to the tomes, they're like, oh, perfect. And it's like, but I don't understand. Like, we can have both. Like, that's the... I'm getting into the options discussion again, where I already saw another comment where someone was like, tomes are the ultimate option. I was like, no, they're not. They're the laziest option. They're the back burner option, but they're now your only option. I've got to listen. I could rant on about how tomes, when you make every step tomes, you effectively are never working on every step at once. You're not able to make multiple progress. You can't do the second one without doing the first one because it's the same resource. A lot of the better relics in our game, you can make progress on multiple at the same time, or the overlap is better. It's why Bozio is very good on content, although it isn't good right now. But yeah, I don't know. I think Relic Grind is like the one place where they actually need to stop listening to the lowest common denominator more than ever. And they need to listen to people that accept that the lowest common denominator should still get it. The people who only want tomes, they should absolutely still be able to get their relics with just their tomes and maybe a little bit of grinding. But that some of us genuinely feel better motivation when we're given more than one option to play the game. When tombstones are your only reward, every tombstone I get is now locked. I need 126,000 tomes if I want every weapon in the game. And that's either going to be done 20 tomes at a time from Dawn Trail hunts, or like however, like 80 from S ranks, or like 10 from the old world trains, or it's going to be roulettes daily, which, you know, I get a few hundred, you know, you get like maybe I think like 1,000 in any given day. So maybe mix and match two activities, you know, but I would rather be like, okay, tomes are there. I can spend my excess tomes, but I also could just grind something specific if I wanted to make some like big short-term progress. So like my mood changes on the day and I might want to do one thing over the other. Not having Occult Crescent in there also, unless of course you want to count that Occult Crescent does indeed give tomes, is a whole other thing. So I don't know. Yeah, the Relic is like the weird thing where I really think they need to like listen to the people who are asking to be given more reasons to play the game consistently, and not the people who literally just don't want to play the game and just want to collect rewards. I think there were a couple of other questions sprinkled in that I like. There was one person. There was definitely like one or two that I thought I was go back to. I'm trying to find it real quick because I know for a fact there was one or two that I just like skipped over. There's one like, what protein do you drink? I have Ghost Protein, but honestly, I don't like it very much. I'm just trying to finish the tub at this point. There was a really expensive protein that I tried. It was like a coffee protein where it was like, I think 200 like I think it was 150 milligrams of caffeine. I think it was called Chic or like Chique. It's like Chike or Chikke or something like that. One of the best mixing proteins I've ever had. Great, tasted literally like an iced coffee, and the protein content was just kind of low. I think it was like 20 grams, but the big problem is it was really expensive. So it's hard for me to recommend, but that one was crazy good. If you're balling and you're not on a budget, dude, I could see that being some really like high end stuff. It was like the only justification I could think for buying it is if you subsequently cut out going to Starbucks every day, in which case huge money save, but that's on you. And I feel like there was one other one that I like. Oh, someone's asking if I was going to play Hollow Knight. No, I didn't play the first one. I just watch people play the Hollow Knight games. I'd rather watch them play than me play personally. I think those are the only questions that I missed. I think so. But either way, that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. I have not had my caffeine yet today. I have not had any food yet today. I need to go remedy both of those problems right this second. So thanks for watching. Be sure to ask your questions in the comment section of the video below so that they're in next week's video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Of course, shout out to Steel Series, and of course, shout out to the patrons as well. Appreciate all y'all for your support for the channel over the years. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. And until then, take care.